Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare $quarter coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're about to explore one of the most iconic coins in American history, the United States $quarter from 1990. At first glance, it may seem like just another everyday coin. But what if I told you that this seemingly ordinary quarter could be worth a small fortune? Stick around as we dive into the history, design, minting process, and everything you need to know about this rare treasure. Let's start with some historical context. The 1990 $quarter is part of the series of quarters that were minted for general circulation by the United States. At that time, the U.S. economy was in the midst of a period of recovery after the challenges of the late 1980s. While the country was far from the financial turmoil that had affected it a few years earlier, it was a time of steady growth, which also reflected in the steady circulation of coins like the quarter. The $quarter itself has a rich history that goes back to the founding of the nation. In fact, the design on the 1990 quarter is part of a long-standing tradition of featuring important symbols of the United States. But before we get into the details of the design, let's take a moment to understand the importance of this specific quarter in the broader context of American currency. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, the U.S. government was minting coins to commemorate various historical events and states. The quarter from 1990 isn't part of any commemorative series, but rather it was part of the standard issue for the year. However, it does have significant appeal for collectors, particularly due to its rarity in pristine condition. Most quarters from this year were heavily circulated, used for daily transactions, and as a result, many have seen significant wear and tear. This makes finding one in perfect condition a real challenge for collectors, which drives its value up considerably. Now, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1990 quarter. The obverse side features the well-known portrait of George Washington, the first President of the United States. This design was created by John Flanagan and has been used on quarters since 1932, making it one of the most iconic images in American numismatics. Washington's image on the quarter symbolizes the strength, leadership, and unity of the young nation. It's a design that has stood the test of time and continues to resonate with people around the world. On the reverse side of the coin, we see the familiar eagle, perched on a bundle of arrows and an olive branch. This design represents the balance of power and peace, a powerful symbol of the United States' commitment to both defense and diplomacy. The eagle, as a national symbol, conveys the freedom and strength of the American people, standing as a reminder of the country's ideals. But what makes the 1990 quarter particularly interesting is the series of changes that took place in the minting process during this era. The United States Mint was constantly refining its techniques to improve the efficiency of coin production and reduce costs. By the time the 1990 quarter was released, the U.S. Mint had already adopted some innovative processes to ensure that coins like the quarter would remain in circulation for years to come. But despite these efforts, many of these coins were subject to damage during everyday use, which, as I mentioned earlier, makes the ones in pristine condition even more valuable. For collectors, the appeal of the 1990 $quarter lies not only in the historical significance of the coin but also in its rarity in uncirculated condition. Because these coins were regularly used in commerce, many have been heavily worn down over time. The challenge for collectors is to find one that is in excellent shape, free from scratches, dings, or discoloration. If you happen to have one in mint condition, you've got a rare find on your hands, and it could be worth far more than its face value. Collectors often look for coins that are graded as proof or uncirculated. A proof coin is one that has been specially minted for collectors, with a high level of detail and a shiny finish. These are typically made in smaller quantities, making them much rarer than regular circulating coins. On the other hand, an uncirculated coin is one that has never been used in circulation. It might show some slight signs of handling, but it will not have the significant wear that is common with circulated coins. One thing to keep in mind is that some 1990 $quarter feature minting errors, which can further increase their value. Errors in the minting process, such as misprints, off-center strikes, or other anomalies, can make a coin significantly more valuable to collectors. These errors are considered a form of numismatic rarity, and coins with minting flaws often fetch higher prices at auction or through private sales. As we're focusing on the 1990 quarter, it's important to understand that these coins were produced in relatively large numbers, which means that they are not inherently rare. However, when you factor in the condition of the coin and the presence of any unique features or errors, the value starts to increase. It's the high-quality examples, or those with rare minting errors, that are truly valuable in the collector market. And now, for the big reveal, just how much could a 1990 United States quarter dollar be worth? If you happen to have one in perfect, uncirculated condition, or even better, one with a rare minting error, you could be holding a coin worth up to $44,000, yes, you heard that right, $44,000 for a single quarter from 1990. It's incredible how something as small and unassuming as a quarter could be worth such a staggering amount. So, if you've got an old coin collection tucked away, it might be time to take a second look. That humble quarter you once tossed into your jar could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Top 2, we're diving into the fascinating story of a coin that many might overlook, the 1996 United States quarter dollar. It's easy to dismiss a coin that's been in circulation for decades, but what if I told you this quarter, once just a simple piece of everyday currency, could be worth an extraordinary sum? Stay tuned as we explore its rich history, intricate design, and why collectors are paying top dollar for a piece of U.S. currency that many have probably never thought twice about. The United States quarter dollar from 1996 is part of a larger tradition of coinage that stretches back over 2 centuries. The quarter itself has a long history, with its design evolving and adapting over the years to reflect the spirit of the nation. In 1996, the U.S. Mint was in the midst of its regular coinage production, but this year marked a significant period for the quarter due to a shift in how it was being perceived by the public and collectors alike. To truly understand the appeal of the 1996 quarter, we need to go back and look at the context of the time. The 1990s were a pivotal decade for the United States. It was a time of economic prosperity, with the nation enjoying steady growth. In fact, the 1990s saw a technological boom, and people were increasingly fascinated by the advancements in computers, telecommunications, and media. It was also a time of political stability after the end of the Cold War, and the country was focused on moving forward into the next millennium. This period of optimism and progress is reflected in the coins minted at the time. The quarter dollar, as part of the nation's currency, had been around for decades, but it was still very much a coin that had a presence in the hands of everyday Americans. From vending machines to toll booths, from grocery stores to parking meters, the quarter was ubiquitous. But it wasn't until after the end of the 20th century that collectors began to see the potential value of coins like the 1996 quarter, particularly those in pristine condition. Now, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1996 quarter. On the obverse, we find the well-known image of George Washington, the first President of the United States. This design, created by John Flanagan in 1932, has been a staple of U.S. quarters for decades. The portrait of Washington is majestic, capturing the dignity and strength of the nation's first leader. The design remains one of the most recognizable images in U.S. numismatics, and it continues to be a symbol of the country's founding principles. The reverse side of the 1996 quarter showcases the familiar eagle design, which has graced the back of U.S. quarters for years. The eagle, standing tall with an olive branch and a bundle of arrows, represents the balance between peace and defense. This powerful symbol reflects the nation's resolve to protect its freedom while maintaining diplomatic efforts around the world. The eagle's wings spread wide, symbolizing the freedom of the United States and its people, while the olive branch represents the country's commitment to peace. While the design itself may seem like a typical U.S. quarter, what makes the 1996 quarter stand out is the sheer number of factors that contribute to its collector appeal. One of the most important aspects of any coin is its condition. In 1996, these quarters were produced in large quantities, and because they were circulated extensively, many of them show signs of wear. Coins that have been in daily use often have scratches, dings, or fading, making them less desirable to collectors. However, as time passed, finding an uncirculated quarter from 1996 in excellent condition became increasingly rare. This is where the value of the coin starts to rise. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins that are in pristine condition, and a 1996 quarter that is free from wear, scratches, and discoloration is a highly prized find. The appeal of a coin that has been kept in perfect condition is that it is as close to its original state as possible, preserving the beauty and detail of the design. These coins, which may have been stored carefully in a collection or never used in circulation, have become sought-after treasures. Another factor that adds to the allure of the 1996 quarter is the possibility of minting errors. Errors can occur during the coin production process, and they can significantly increase the value of a coin. For example, a 1996 quarter with a misprint, an off-center strike, or a doubled die can be worth far more than a regular, error-free coin. Minting errors are highly desirable because they are unique, and they provide collectors with something that cannot be replicated. If you happen to own a 1996 quarter with a noticeable error, you could be holding a coin that is worth far more than its face value. It's also important to understand the context in which this quarter was minted. The U.S. Mint regularly produces quarters for circulation, but only a small percentage of these coins are preserved in mint condition. Many of the 1996 quarters were used in daily transactions, so the ones that have remained in uncirculated condition are considered rare. Coins that were kept in excellent condition right from the time they were minted are particularly valuable, especially when considering how many years have passed since they were first produced. But how do you determine if your 1996 quarter is worth anything beyond 25 cents? The key lies in the coin's grading. Coin grading is the process of evaluating a coin's condition based on factors like wear, luster, and detail. A coin that is in perfect, uncirculated condition will receive a higher grade, and the higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. A 1996 quarter in perfect condition, graded by a reputable coin grading organization, could command a premium price in the collector's market. Now, let's get to the part you've all been waiting for. How much could the 1996 United States quarter be worth? If you have a 1996 quarter in uncirculated condition, free from wear and tear, or even better, a quarter with a rare minting error, you could be sitting on a coin worth $37,000. That's right, $37,000 for a single 1996 quarter. It's incredible to think that a coin which once circulated as everyday currency can now fetch such a high price. So, if you've got some old change lying around or have inherited a collection, it's worth taking a closer look. That seemingly ordinary quarter from 1996 could be worth much more than you ever imagined. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1996 quarter dollar and the fascinating world of coin collecting. Top 3, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatics, the United States quarter dollar from 1965. It may seem like just another coin, but believe me, this particular quarter has a story to tell, one that stretches back to a time of immense change in American history. And by the end of this video, you'll be amazed to learn just how much this quarter could be worth today. Stick with me as we take a deep dive into its historical context, its stunning design, the minting process, and of course, its value in the collector market. To truly understand the significance of the 1965 quarter, we need to first step back in time to the year it was minted. The United States in 1965 was a country undergoing tremendous change. It was the heart of the 1960s, an era marked by social movements, political upheaval, and economic transformation. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum, the space race was in full swing, and the country was deeply involved in the Vietnam War. The world was also witnessing the rise of new technologies, from the first computers to advancements in communications and transportation. Amid all of this, the U.S. Mint was making some significant changes of its own. For many years, U.S. coins had been made with a higher percentage of silver. However, as the country entered the 1960s, there was a growing concern about the rising costs of silver and its effect on the national economy. This led to one of the most important changes in U.S. coinage history. In 1965, the U.S. Mint made a bold move by removing silver from most of its coins, including the quarter. Prior to 1965, U.S. quarters were made of 90% silver, which gave them not only intrinsic value but also a rich, shiny appearance. However, as the price of silver rose, it became too costly to continue producing coins with such a high silver content. In response, the U.S. Mint decided to replace silver with a copper-nickel blend, resulting in a quarter that, while still a trusted part of everyday currency, no longer contained the precious metal it once did. The 1965 quarter was the first year that the U.S. Mint struck coins with this new composition, which consisted of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This change marked the end of an era for American coinage, and the 1965 quarter became a symbol of the shift in the nation's approach to its currency. The move to a copper-nickel alloy was also driven by the fact that the demand for coins was rising, and the mint needed a more cost-effective way to produce them. The change, however, caused a great deal of controversy at the time, as many people felt that the removal of silver would devalue the coins and affect their status as tangible, precious assets. However, the 1965 quarter proved to be incredibly important for several reasons. First, it signaled a new era of U.S. coinage that would last for decades. Second, it was the beginning of a new phase in the history of the quarter, which has always been one of the most commonly circulated coins in the country. Despite the controversy over its metal content, the 1965 quarter continued to play an essential role in everyday transactions, and its importance would only grow over time. As for the design, the 1965 quarter closely resembled its predecessors. The obverse side still featured the iconic portrait of George Washington, which had been designed by John Flanagan in 1932. This image, one of the most recognized in American coinage, depicts Washington in profile, looking calm and dignified. The image is surrounded by the words, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," as well as the date of the coin's minting, 1965. On the reverse side, the design remained largely unchanged as well. The eagle, which had been a staple of U.S. coinage for many years, was depicted clutching an olive branch and arrows, symbolizing peace and defense. The phrase, "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one, was also included, representing the unity of the states that made up the United States. What truly set the 1965 quarter apart from other quarters, however, was the dramatic change in its composition. The removal of silver meant that the coin had a different weight and appearance than its predecessors. The new copper-nickel blend resulted in a duller color, more closely resembling modern-day quarters. It was less shiny and bright than the older silver quarters, and this is one of the most distinguishing features of the 1965 quarter when compared to earlier years. Despite the controversy surrounding its composition, the 1965 quarter became a lasting symbol of American currency. It was the beginning of a new chapter for the U.S. Mint, as the mint had to adjust to new economic realities while maintaining the trust and acceptance of the American public. The shift to copper-nickel alloy also meant that the mint could produce quarters more efficiently, meeting the growing demand for coins during a time of economic expansion. Now, let's talk about the collector's appeal. While the 1965 quarter may not have the same intrinsic value it once did due to the removal of silver, it has still become highly sought after by coin collectors. As time passed, the significance of the 1965 quarter grew. The fact that it marked the end of silver coinage in the U.S. made it a historically important coin. Collectors who specialize in U.S. coins from this era are particularly interested in acquiring quarters from 1965, as they represent the moment when the nation's currency underwent a major transformation. In terms of rarity, the 1965 quarter is more common than many other collectible coins, as it was minted in large quantities. However, certain factors can make individual 1965 quarters more valuable. For example, if a 1965 quarter is in pristine, uncirculated condition, it can fetch a higher price than one that shows signs of heavy circulation. Collectors are always looking for coins that are free of scratches, dings, or discoloration, as these factors can dramatically reduce a coin's value. Another way the 1965 quarter can be more valuable is if it has a minting error. While the U.S. Mint strives for perfection, errors in the minting process do happen. These errors, such as off-center strikes, doubled dies, or misprints, can make a coin highly sought after by collectors. A 1965 quarter with a minting error can be worth far more than a regular, error-free coin, especially if the error is unique or particularly rare. So, how much could a 1965 quarter be worth today? If you have a 1965 quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition, or even better, one with a rare minting error, you could be holding a coin worth $67,000, yes, you heard that right, $67,000 for a single 1965 quarter. It's amazing to think that something as simple as a quarter, which once circulated in everyday transactions, can now be worth such an incredible amount. If you have any of these quarters in your collection, or if you come across one in your change, it might be time to take a closer look. You could be holding a piece of American history worth far more than you ever imagined. Top 4. We're diving into the fascinating world of American numismatics, and we're focusing on a quarter that stands out for several reasons: the United States quarter dollar from 1979. This coin might seem like just another piece of everyday currency, but there's more to this quarter than meets the eye. Whether you're a seasoned collector or new to the world of coin collecting, this quarter has a story that will captivate your imagination. Stick around as we uncover the historical context, design features, minting details, and why collectors today are paying incredible prices for a 1979 quarter. Let's begin by setting the stage for the year 1979. It was a time of economic change and political turmoil in the United States. The 1970s had been a challenging decade for the nation, with the lingering effects of the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, and the oil crisis. But 1979 was also a year of transformation. Jimmy Carter was president, and the country was beginning to face inflation issues and economic stagnation. While the nation grappled with economic concerns, the U.S. Mint was quietly working behind the scenes, producing coins that would go on to have their own lasting impact in the world of collectors. The 1979 quarter was part of a broader set of coins produced by the U.S. Mint during this period. This particular quarter stood out because of its design, as well as its place in a series of changes taking place in American currency at the time. Although the U.S. Mint had used the same basic design for the quarter dollar since 1932, by 1979, there was a growing interest in new designs, especially to reflect the changing dynamics of American society. While the quarter remained part of the traditional series, 1979 was a year that marked the beginning of some shifts in the world of American coins. But why did the 1979 quarter become a sought-after piece among collectors? First, let's take a closer look at the design, which carries its own unique significance. On the obverse side of the coin, you'll find the well-known portrait of George Washington. This design, created by John Flanagan in 1932, has been a hallmark of the U.S. quarter for decades. It features Washington in profile, exuding the strength and leadership of the nation's first president. The words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" surround the portrait, a reminder of the principles upon which the United States was founded. The date of the coin's minting, 1979, is also displayed on this side. This iconic design had been in circulation for nearly half a century by 1979, but the reverse side of the coin is where things get interesting. The reverse of the 1979 quarter showcases the traditional eagle in flight, holding an olive branch and arrows in its talons. This design, symbolizing the balance between peace and defense, had been used on U.S. quarters for many years. The motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one, is also inscribed on the reverse, reinforcing the unity of the United States. Although the design itself wasn't radically different from previous years, the 1979 quarter still holds a special place in American coinage history for a few key reasons. One of the main factors that makes this quarter stand out is the transition period in American coin production at the time. The late 1970s were a time of change for the U.S. Mint, as they were considering new ways to handle the increasing costs of producing coins. The introduction of new metals and the evolving designs of coins set the stage for what would come in later decades. Another important consideration when evaluating the 1979 quarter is the composition of the coin. Since 1965, the quarter had been minted using a mixture of copper and nickel, rather than the silver content used in earlier years. The 1979 quarter was no exception, being made with a clad composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This change in composition had a significant impact on the appearance and weight of the coin, making it less shiny and less valuable in terms of its metal content compared to the older silver quarters. The minting details of the 1979 quarter are also worth noting. The United States Mint produced millions of these quarters that year, and like many coins produced in the 1970s, the 1979 quarter was intended for general circulation. It was designed to be a functional piece of currency that could withstand the wear and tear of everyday use. However, due to the large quantities of these coins being minted, finding a 1979 quarter in pristine condition today is increasingly rare, especially given the passage of time. As with many collectible coins, the value of the 1979 quarter largely depends on its condition. Most quarters that were in circulation have seen their fair share of wear, with scratches, scuff marks, and discoloration over the years. But for collectors, finding a 1979 quarter in uncirculated or mint condition is a prize. Coins that have been well preserved in original condition are highly sought after, as they represent the coin as it was when it was first minted. Beyond the overall condition of the coin, there are certain variations and errors in the 1979 quarter that can significantly affect its value. For example, some collectors are particularly interested in coins with certain die errors, such as off-center strikes, doubled dies, or even unusual minting anomalies. These errors can create coins that are unique, and as a result, they can command far higher prices in the collector's market. If you happen to come across a 1979 quarter with a noticeable minting error, it could potentially be worth much more than a regular, error-free coin. Now, let's talk about why this particular coin has such an incredible appeal in the collector's market. As with many coins, rarity is a major factor in determining value. The 1979 quarter is no longer being produced, and as time passes, the number of well-preserved examples of this coin diminishes. It's not uncommon for older quarters to be found in change or in people's coin jars, but those that remain in excellent condition are much harder to find. Because of this, collectors have developed a strong demand for the 1979 quarter, especially those in uncirculated condition. As you might expect, coins from this era are particularly appealing to collectors who specialize in U.S. currency from the late 20th century. The 1979 quarter is a key piece in the collection of any serious numismatist, and because it represents a time of change in American coinage, it holds historical value as well. The fact that the 1979 quarter marks the final years before significant changes in coin production would occur in the 1980s makes it an important part of American history. Now, let's get to the big question: just how much is a 1979 quarter worth today? If you happen to own a 1979 quarter that is in pristine, uncirculated condition, or perhaps one with a rare minting error, you could be sitting on a coin worth $59,000. Yes, you heard that right. $59,000 for a single 1979 quarter. It's mind-blowing to think that a coin, which was once just a small piece of everyday currency, could now fetch such a staggering price. This just goes to show how much the world of coin collecting can surprise us, and how even the most unassuming coins can hold incredible value if they're in the right condition or have a rare feature. If you have a 1979 quarter in your collection, or if you happen to come across one, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. It could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Make sure to check its condition and any potential minting errors. It could be a real treasure. Top 5 and last quarter coin. We're focusing on a particularly fascinating coin from the 1970s, one that has intrigued collectors for years, the United States quarter dollar from 1974. What makes this coin so special, you may ask? Well, as we explore its historical background, design, minting details, and appeal in the collector's market, you'll see why it's become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatics. Stick with us till the end, because we'll reveal just how much this coin could be worth today, and it's a figure that will truly surprise you. The year 1974 was a pivotal time in U.S. history. America was in the midst of political and economic changes that would go on to shape the nation for decades. The Watergate scandal had recently rocked the country, leading to the resignation of President Richard Nixon. Meanwhile, the economy was dealing with the challenges of inflation, the energy crisis, and the effects of the Vietnam War. Despite these turbulent times, life went on, and so did the production of U.S. currency. The 1974 quarter was part of the ongoing series of coins being produced during this period, but what makes this quarter so remarkable? To understand that, we need to take a step back and look at the broader context of coinage during the early 1970s. Up until 1964, U.S. quarters had been made of 90% silver. However, in 1965, in response to a shortage of silver, the U.S. Mint switched the composition of quarters to a copper-nickel-clad metal. This change, while economically necessary, resulted in quarters that looked quite different from their earlier, silver predecessors. The 1974 quarter, like others minted after 1965, was produced using this new metal composition, with 75% copper and 25% nickel, which gave it a somewhat less lustrous appearance. Despite the switch in materials, the design of the 1974 quarter remained largely unchanged from earlier years. On the obverse side, you'll find the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington, the first president of the United States, has been featured on the quarter since 1932, making it one of the longest-running designs in American coinage. His portrait is surrounded by the words, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," both key symbols of American freedom and belief. On the reverse side, the eagle design has also remained constant, a symbol of strength and unity for the nation. The eagle is depicted in flight, holding an olive branch and arrows, representing the balance between peace and defense. Above the eagle, the words "E pluribus unum," meaning "out of many, one," serve as a reminder of the unity of the states. These timeless symbols not only reflect the ideals of the American people but also the enduring legacy of the nation's founding principles. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds great, but what makes the 1974 quarter special? Well, as with many coins, the value and collectability of the 1974 quarter lie in certain details that can make it stand out from others. While the design remained consistent with earlier years, the 1974 quarter carries with it some unique characteristics that contribute to its growing appeal in the world of numismatics. One of the first things collectors look for in any coin is its condition. Most 1974 quarters, like many coins produced in the 1970s, were heavily circulated. They were used in daily transactions, spent, and often became worn down over time. A coin that was exposed to the elements, dropped, or even handled repeatedly in pockets or cash registers can show signs of wear, including scratches, discoloration, or other marks. Coins in such conditions typically hold little value beyond their face value of 25 cents. However, there's something incredibly special about finding a 1974 quarter in mint or uncirculated condition. Coins that have been carefully stored and preserved since their minting, with no signs of wear or damage, are rare and highly sought after by collectors. These pristine quarters can command a premium price because they retain their original shine and detail, making them much more valuable than their worn counterparts. But the story of the 1974 quarter doesn't end there. There are also some rarities and anomalies that have been discovered among the 1974 quarters, adding another layer of intrigue for collectors. Mint errors are an exciting aspect of coin collecting, and the 1974 quarter is no exception. Over the years, some 1974 quarters have surfaced with unique characteristics, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or other irregularities that occurred during the minting process. These errors are highly prized by collectors because they represent one-of-a-kind pieces that are different from the rest of the production run. For example, some quarters from 1974 have been found with a misaligned die, which can cause the images or inscriptions to appear in unusual places or in distorted form. These types of errors are rare and often go unnoticed, so when collectors do find one, it can significantly increase the coin's value. If you happen to own a 1974 quarter with a mint error, it's worth doing some research to determine whether it's a rare and valuable piece. The 1974 quarter is also notable for being produced during a time when the U.S. Mint was under pressure to meet the increasing demand for coins. As the country's population grew, so did the need for currency, and the mint ramped up its production of quarters. However, the sheer volume of production means that only a small number of 1,974 quarters were ever set aside in pristine condition. Finding one of these quarters in uncirculated state today is quite rare, which contributes to its high desirability in the collector's market. In terms of value, the 1974 quarter is an excellent example of how rarity and condition can dramatically affect a coin's price. A regular 1974 quarter in average circulated condition typically holds no more value than its face value of 25 cents. However, if you come across a 1974 quarter in mint or uncirculated condition, or even one with a unique minting error, you might be sitting on a valuable treasure. So, here's the big reveal: if you happen to have one of these pristine or error-filled 1974 quarters, you could be looking at a coin worth $62,000, that's right, $62,000 for a single 1974 quarter. It's truly astonishing to think that a coin with a face value of just 25 cents could fetch such a large sum. But it's the rarity, the condition, and the potential for mint errors that make the 1974 quarter so valuable to collectors. If you're lucky enough to own one, or if you happen to stumble upon one in your spare change, it could turn out to be a small fortune. So, what should you do if you think you have a 1974 quarter worth something more than its face value? The first step is to carefully examine the coin for any signs of wear, damage, or minting errors. If it's in excellent condition or features any unique minting anomalies, it's a good idea to have it professionally appraised. And, of course, if you're thinking of selling, always consult with a reputable coin dealer or auction house to ensure you get the best possible price. Thank you for joining us today as we explored the history, design, and value of the 1974 U.S. quarter. If you found this video interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos about rare and valuable coins. Happy collecting, and who knows, maybe you'll find your own hidden treasure soon.